Hey guys, welcome back to Jenny from the Chopping Block. And today I have an amazing guest, Tina Jesso. And I find it really amazing and interesting that I was trying to manifest my goddess to come on the show because I've been having a lot of males on the show. And I'm like, I need to bring the girls back. And, we've been I don't know who's involved with the comeback challenge with Tony Robbins, but yesterday was relationship day. And last night, I actually got a message from Tina, and I'm so excited to show you guys what she's up to in the world. And I met Tina through the Facebook Live Challenge group, and I just want to honor you and note that like your presence and like your voice is just mesmerizing, and I always love tuning into you and learning from you. So I want to highlight you, and I'm glad that you are my goddess. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. That's the most amazing intro that I've had on any of the lives and interviews that I've done so far. How beautiful is that? And thank you for saying that. And you know what? I really connected with you on your lives because you're so heart-based. You know what I mean? And everything that you were doing really, really resonated with me. And yeah, we started a connection through the Facebook Lives. And this week it seems love is in the air.
It sure is. I was trying to do this outside, but
oh my gosh,
I'm wearing my heart sunglasses today.
I love it.
Kind of looks silly inside.
That's great, and it goes so well with the background that you chose. It really does. And I so appreciate your having me on today. And I think it's so serendipitous sometimes, and as Tony Robbins would say, synchrodestiny happening, right? You asked for a female person. I must have heard you in the quantum field there somewhere because I just reached out to you. And I don't think I've ever approached you for anything like this before. Like, why did your name just pop into my head? Right? And it did. And it was like,
I called you. I had a banana phone right now, but I called you and you answered.
I totally did. That's so cool. And you just told me a few minutes ago that you were, deeply involved and listening to what was going on yesterday with Tony, which was about relationships, right? Relationships and love. So it's just like everything is melding together so well for this conversation for us today. That's amazing.
Beautiful. Yes. So I want to talk about, I know, is it today that you're launching your program?
Yeah, so Love in Sync, the dating app, which is for those in the personal growth space, actually launched on early this week, right? So we're building up momentum and we're reaching out to influencers and leaders like yourself in the personal development space to let people know that we have this platform available, and this is the people that we want to hang out with in Love in Sync. Right. And we are offering some really interesting programs in there. It's almost like it's a personal growth platform for people looking for love. And, and you can meet the love of your life in there. Who knows, right? Especially if that's a priority for you to meet someone that's also in that particular space.
And we've seen that. I know even in the Facebook Live challenge, I mean, it's beautiful. How many people have came together and got engaged, and it's just having that, I heard this morning, it's not, a lot of people say similar mindset, but I heard this morning on the huddle from Blinded, it's similar, what did she say? It was like the same heart set kind of thing, like you're in this, like it's through the heart, and sometimes that brings people together virtually, and that's just a big part of what Susan stand for, and I'm so excited for you guys, and I think it's gonna bring people together. Excited to.
Thank you. Well, listen, we really, Love in Sync, if you don't mind, my mentioning a little bit about the crazy story that got us going in this path to begin with, is that Susan Hum, the co-founder and my dear, dear friend, we knew we wanted to start a business together. And there's nothing like necessity. When you see a need or something drives you crazy and it could be so much better, You know what I mean? So I was coming out of financial services for 30 years. Susan was in corporate for a while, but it had been a life and love coach for quite a while and quite successful at it. And over on her birthday, so how cool is that? On her birthday, we're having a glass of wine. I'm telling her about my latest crazy adventure with online dating. The guy that showed up didn't match his picture at all. Right. And it wasn't the first time. And I said to Susan after my second glass of wine, I pounded the table. I said, you know what? If I was in charge of online dating, that just wouldn't happen. That's not going to happen on my dating website. And this is what we could do. And, personal development. And we could have courses and getting ready for love and showing how it's so much better to be authentic and honest, because that's what's attractive. That's what's sexy. You know what I mean? And I was going on. And she said, stop it. This is exactly what we have to do. This is what we have to do to start a dating website. So
you just sounded like her.
Yes.
That's amazing. It's amazing. It's funny, I think I went on one online date, so it's very new to me. And, I think during this COVID time, it's been like such a great opportunity for people to really connect, like whether it's virtually through FaceTime or Zoom so I think this is like perfect timing also for your launch, because people are not really allowed to go anywhere. And this is an opportunity to really get to know somebody over a course of months, maybe till you can meet. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So
yeah.
Thank you. What inspired you to get into this space of trying to help people, or not trying, this space of helping people come together and find their partner?
Yeah. So, like I said, for me, it was just about seeing a huge need. And I know that there's so many amazing people out there and they can't connect because of all of the noise. You know what I mean? There's so many people in online dating. Like, how do you meet someone that really has similar values? Right? Because the values is a very important connecting point. And how do you sift through all the nonsense? Because sometimes there's, people on there that are catfishing. I don't know if you know that term, where people go on in order to set you up for like all kinds of craziness. You know what I mean?
I do know that term. Somebody stole my photo once.
Oh, no way. And pretend
yeah, it was really creepy.
And they put it on somebody else's profile? Yeah, that's exactly what catfishing is. They go and they take somebody else's picture because you're so cute and attractive. They know it's going to attract a lot of guys. And then they start conversing, and eventually they end up asking you for money, right? Or trying to take your identity in some way. So you really got to be careful about that type of thing. So you asked me what motivated us to do that. Like I said, I think there's so many. Love is important, right? Love is really everything. And everything that I've done in life until now, it's something I always love what I do. And to tell the truth, I love because I think it's so important for life. It's life. And look at all the hearts you put around here. Like, this couldn't, there you go. There you go. That says it all. And you notice you have two hearts. It's not one, it's two hearts.
Two. Yeah.
So
takes two to tango.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm over 50. I'm 58 years old. And sometimes women in my age group think, oh, I'm never going to find love. I'm giving up before I get started. And I'm here to say it ain't over till it's over, until you decide that it's over. And there's so many people that are finding love at any age. And it's a question of, understanding who you are. Right. And we had this conversation before we even got on the live. Right. And we were looking at where do you get started? Right. And how do you attract the right mate? And what do you think is one, like, based on your experience thus far, Jennifer? Like, you haven't been on online dating a lot, like you said, but that's okay. Like, where do you think people could get started in terms of, putting themselves out there to find love? And you were on the relationship, you were listening to what Tony was talking about yesterday. Like, what takeaway do you have from that?
Well, I just want to start by saying, because I was reflecting a lot on this the past couple of days, and I just want to start by saying this self-love is really important. And also, like, okay, let me organize my thoughts. So first it starts with the self-love, and then thinking about who you want to show up as. And I want to correct myself after talking with you, because I thought, like, I understand you want to attract your mate by having a mirror of you, but by talking to you, it really solidified that you don't want somebody who's identical to you. And that was part of my thoughts also, is like past relationships when I was trying to like model my partner,
Right.
and kind of, you know, like all the music he liked, or like all the things he liked, to try to model that person. But I don't believe that's, I mean, I was in a lot of long-term relationships, but that's not who I want to show up as anymore. And the other thing is, I just have so many thoughts around this right now. So I'm trying to, I'm still figuring it out, to be honest with you. What was the other realizations I've had? Self-love, mirrors. I don't know. Can you help me? You're
Feeler.
the thinker. I'm the feeler.
Funny.
Is that a thing? Because it's really hard for me to talk sometimes, but I have it all in here. I can't say it.
But you know what? It's you absolutely do have it all inside of you. And you know what this illustrates too is that we all need somebody in our lives. And why should we think we have all the answers, right? And why should we just rely on ourselves for everything? There's so many people out there that we can work with, and that's part of finding a love interest, right? And sometimes I hear women say, and I'm going to go back to your point in just a second, but I hear a lot of women say if they've accomplished in their career, like I was pretty accomplished in my career, and I hear so many women say, you know, if I find someone, that's okay. But if I don't, that's okay. I do well financially. I've got friends. I got family. My kids are amazing. And that's all amazing blessings to have. Right. But I really think that we're missing out on life if we do not really want and close ourselves, especially to close ourselves off to love. I think it's important to leave. So if we're not with somebody and we're doing okay, that's freaking awesome. Right. But I think we should be careful not to close our hearts to finding love, because it could be around us and we're not even seeing it because we've got the blinders on. Right.
Well, yeah. I just have so much. You're inspiring me to talk more about. So I was also thinking it's like who we have to show up for, but also to realize like we're perfectly imperfect to who we are, and we're enough, and not to get it twisted. You know, there's always room for improvement, but we are enough. So I thought about that also. And then, yeah, I lost my other thought, but I just wanted to point that out.
That's really great, because you know what you're getting to, and which, you know, I'm 57, you're in your 30s, we're at different stages in our life. And this is why this conversation is so interesting, you know? And one of the things that, if I could have known this from a younger age, Jennifer, of owning my truth, right? Owning who I am and not. And there were times when I tried to mold myself to who I was with, to try to do things that wasn't really stuff I wanted to do, because I wanted them to like me and continue to like me. You know what I mean? But I think what I've learned is that the more that you honor your own truth and who you are and what your passions are, and just go for it. If you love gardening, and you know, and it may not be the thing for whoever you're with, doesn't matter. And you know what? Your partner will probably respect you a lot for that, and admire the fact that you're really good at something that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll be talking to his, oh, you should see Jennifer. She's so amazing what she's done in our garden, right? I'm horrible at it. But look at her go, and what she's been, the beautiful.
We have blueberries growing, y'all. There's blueberries growing out there. I'm so excited.
Oh, you are a green. Yeah, I do have a green thumb. I just threw that out there. So yeah.
So I have a question for you that I wanted to talk to you about. Do you have any advice or tips that we could use on overcoming past hurts in relationships?
Okay, you're talking to an expert right now
I know.
My
I
own, no, my
manifested
own
you.
experience. I mean, I'm not, saying that I'm a worldwide expert or something. I'm just saying in terms of my own experience, right? Touching my own heart. Um, in that it's really important to take the time to heal, right? And take the time to heal, but not to stay in it too long. And for me, it was, I instinctually kind of felt my way out of it, but I also had like amazing friends who were at a level where they weren't pandering to me. They weren't saying, oh, yes, it's okay for you to feel that way all the time. You know what I mean? They were saying, well, Tina, maybe it's time for you to tell a different story. Do you want to tell this story
Mm-hmm.
all the time? Right? Do you want to be this tragic story? Because I came out of a really
Mm-hmm.
troubling marriage, and you know, after 7 years, basically, I was bullied almost from day one in the relationship, in spite of the fact that I had been, successful in at just about anything else I had touched in my education, my career, and all of that. But for whatever reason, right? There were childhood triggers that were in there. It was problem with me finding my own voice, right? Finding my own
Mm-hmm.
voice. I didn't want to abandon the family because I had a son, right? For my son's sake, a whole bunch of reasons. But I think one of the best things that you can do to heal is look and take responsibility for your part in why it didn't work out. That was the number one healing thing for me. So my story had been, oh, I'm the victim. He was the nasty dude. You know what I mean? And, and it bolstered me up. I always got attention when I talked about it. But in reality, what happened is that I stayed in it, right? I didn't do anything to get out of that situation, to rectify the situation, like strongly rectify the situation, take strong moves, or to get out of it. So I didn't have to stay there for 7 years, right? So that was my part in it. And also, I wasn't dealing with the issues that kept coming up. So his behavior kept getting exacerbated and his reaction got stronger and stronger. Why? Because I was putting my head in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So whatever your situation is, and it's everybody's situation is different, but if you can look back at it and try as much as possible to look at it objectively, because there's always two players in a situation. So that was the most healing thing that I ever did, was to take responsibility for that. In spite of the fact I had a few friends that kept saying, oh, a narcissist, Tina, you're an empath. Oh, that explains it. You didn't have a choice. But that's the most disempowering thing possible, because it implied I didn't have a choice. Whereas when I realized I did have a choice, even though, I'm not proud of the fact that I didn't deal with things better, but at least I feel more empowered because I know now that I had the choice to leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
You have the
saying?
tools. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to state, because I felt your story, I heard you, but I just wanted to add, like, feelings are universal. So, like, I just love hearing people break through that. And I'm starting that journey, and I've been reflecting a lot on that, just taking ownership and forgiving myself, and, forgiving others, and not putting stickies. I think that was one of my favorite parts about Tony's relationship day yesterday, because when the wife was talking about her husband, did I say this already?
Not
I want to
not
say it
live.
again. Oh, okay. She was putting, they call it stickies, when you post like stickies on a person and you make them out to be this like monster. And I think females do that a lot
Yes.
to their partners. But then when you met the example of the intervention that Tony did with this couple, you see the man and he's like a cutie, a total cutie. And you're like, so I love that. That was great.
We
Yeah, I
don't,
don't know where
we're
I was going
not,
with that, but I just wanted to
what's cool
highlight
is
that.
that when you can have someone like a Tony or a coach or somebody like that to kind of point out our blind spots and make us look at things in a different way, it's amazing by just having a different perspective, how that can change the results. Right? Because it has to do with our energetic connection to what's going on. So, and our partners feel it without being able to say it necessarily or identify it. So people can
Mm-hmm.
feel when we're judging them. And I'm sure like my ex
Mm-hmm.
probably did as well. Right. But if I was dealing with it getting the anger out and taking the steps necessary to rectify the situation, then I'm sure that would have changed. That would have, it's like deflating a balloon.
Yeah.
We're at at the same level of playing field, and we can move forward. But that's subversive. It's like a subversive energy. That negative energy affects everything, and it affects how our partners respond to us. Right?
Big
So, yeah.
time.
And you said something I think really cool and really important. Yes, I ended up forgiving first of all, I forgave my ex for this whole situation, and we're on much better terms right now, like phenomenal. We're still divorced, and that's not going to change, but a much better situation, which is great for my son. And the second
Mm-hmm.
thing was I truly forgave myself for staying there and for not, you know, showing the behavior that I could have, right, in order to better deal with the situation. And you know what? One thing that's been really freeing for me is realizing that in any situation, at any time, we're doing the best that we can, and to have compassion.
Absolutely.
Have
And people love the best they know how.
compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And also to have compassion, even though you're at a certain level, you're not the same lady that you were when you went into that relationship that you just talked about, where you were there for several years. And you know what? We're still a work in progress. And I can say at 57, I'm definitely still a work in progress. And each of us have to have compassion for the missteps or the mistakes or the judgments that we're probably going to still have in the future. Right. So it doesn't mean that we got it all figured out. But if you just bring that
Mm-hmm.
level of awareness, hopefully you can step out of it a lot faster. Right.
And it's fun. I love this stuff. Speaking of fun, can you give us a few tips of how to put fun back into dating? I love date nights.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Those can be such a blast. Such a blast. So I'm still doing some online dating as well, especially during COVID. It's all been on Zoom and video conference and stuff like that. Right. So it's when I go into it, like I'm always aware we're on a Zoom call. It's kind of like a date, so I'm looking. So one of my tips is just be aware of your background, right? Because you really want to put your best foot forward. And if you got your dirty socks all over the place, or your thing is on the cat's litter, it's
Oh my God, you're funny.
right. I'm just saying. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you look lovely, right? You're beautiful. You're young. What you're wearing it's like perfect for a date night. Right.
Well,
But
thank
and
you.
don't have your old sweatshirt on or something like that. Like make a bit of an effort because people respond to that. And I would say, I don't know if this is a fun tip, but go on the date with a complete open mind. Right?
Yeah.
Just that you want to make a human connection, not that you have this laundry list of questions like where do you work and what's your relationship with your kids and how do you treat your parent, whatever your go-to questions are. Just treat it like you're getting to know someone who is potentially a great friend. And in my experience, with all the people that I met over the years, everybody has a story. Right. And why don't you just make it a mission to find out what somebody's story is and what's important to them and give them feedback and all that kind of stuff. And, think about some cool little questions like where is the time when you felt the goofiest? What's the goofiest thing about what you do? Yeah, or anything. What's the dorkiest thing? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That you've ever done or that you do on a regular, like, I don't like to walk on the cracks on the sidewalk, right? I don't know if that's dorky or whatever, but I just got to think, I don't walk on the cracks.
I used to do that when I was younger. Step on a crack, you break your mother's back.
But you see, you're laughing, right?
Yeah.
So that changes the energy, especially, and you know what? Bring the flirtation back into dating. Right. I mean, maybe you do it naturally already, but just to be aware of that, and a little flick of the hair, you know what I mean? You bring the voice down an octave. Really lean
Your
in.
voice is perfect, by the way. I could just listen to it forever. And I like what you're saying because you're smart, but you have the
You're
perfect
adorable.
voice.
You're
Thank you.
adorable. But it makes sense. Like if I'm leaning into what you're saying, right, it's because I'm really interested in what you're saying. You know what I mean? And smile. Oh my God, lots of smiles.
What about for guys?
Mm. Same
Can we give
thing.
them any tools?
Pardon me?
I was saying because I'm just flashing back to Jen Hargrave and like how she was talking about how you could flirt. And then I remembered her saying something about if he touches his socks, he likes you. Did
That's
you hear
right.
that?
I did hear her say that. Yes. Yeah.
So
So on a
then
video
like
conference, it might be hard to see somebody touching their socks. You know what I mean? But for sure, if somebody's leaning in towards you and smiling and maybe even look like they're blushing sometimes, you know what I mean? Just pick up on all the little clues. So, how can you pick up on the clues? Is by being present, right? And not maybe, we could all do that as well. Not think of what we're going to, let's say you're telling me an interesting story and I'm thinking, oh, I had something similar that happened with a red car and I can't wait to tell her that. You know what I mean? But instead, find something in there to continue the conversation in his story instead of trying to bring it back to me. You know what I mean? Just being present. And if you're that present, you'll see those, as Jan likes to say, right? Those non-verbal cues. She is so amazing, Jan, right? The body language.
I need to get her on here.
You should.
We were talking. I have to follow up. But yeah, I just want to comment on what you were saying about that effective listening and how important that is, I think, in all relationships. I actually took a course in college about that. And it was I was in school for health science and I did humanities and social sciences, but that was my favorite course. And it was communications, looking back, and just how like it's helped me get to know people better because most people don't listen effectively. And if you're thinking about what you're going to say next, you're not listening to what the person is saying, and you might miss something that would really benefit the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? If you're really comfortable, self-awareness, right? So if you're really comfortable with who you are and your history, like we had a little chat beforehand, and you're a classic lady from the gig generation, right? You've done so many different things and you have developed so many talents and so many interests because like the gig generation, right? They do a little gig on contract and then they move on to something else, right? My first assistant, I mean, she was talented at doing everything from writing to acting to taking to photography to movie. It was incredible, right? All the things that she was able to do, as well as being a stylist, right? And that's kind of like you. So I think that's amazing that you know how to do so much stuff and you're so adaptable, right? I see that as a big strength. If I'm not saying
Thank
this
you.
you, but somebody else might think, oh, I've been all over the place. People don't understand me. I just want to, camouflage that part of me. No, just find, just own. Once again, it's owning who you are and taking pride in that because inevitably every circumstance has served you in some way.
Absolutely. We're exactly where we're supposed to be, I believe. And now, how I know we talked a little bit about this before, but how does that transcend into relationships? Because we were talking how like I love variety in my work and I love different subgroups of people and being able to not have that groundhog's day and kind of like go where the wind blows me. But what about like when I talked about in my relationships, I've been in my almost my whole adult life. I've had short windows of being single and I'm good at being single, but it's like, how does that transcend into the personal life with our generation?
Yeah, well, your generation has a lot on its plate because there's so much we didn't have as much social media as is happening now. You know what I mean? So you're exposed to so much on social media and and you see all these pictures out there and I've heard this as a complaint, from a lot of guys that everybody has filters on, right? So it's hard to see even the real person. And sometimes you get together on a date and they don't look like they really are because of the filters and stuff. And it's just because, and I've looked at a lot of the profiles, and especially for girls, they all look like supermodels on dating websites. And a lot of it is because of the filters, the way they take their pictures, which are unbelievably gorgeous. You know what I mean? But I think people are craving real, right? They are really craving
Yeah.
real. So it's a special challenge for people in their late 20s, early 30s to sift through all of that. And this is why maybe a site like, not to self-promote too much, but any group that you can find that wherever it is,
Self promote.
comfortable and where you have common values, right? If it's really important for you to be with a group of people who are all of the gig generation, maybe there's some group that, you know what I mean? If personal growth is so important for you, which it is, you're a member of a few, personal growth groups. So you're already doing that. You know what I mean? And I would say, because you've had long-term relationships, because your personal life is, your jobs are, varied and all of that, maybe that's balances you to have a more longer term and stable relationship, right? That grounds you as you're going out and doing so many different things.
Facts. Yes. And I have a question about your site. So is there opportunity, like is it in the program to like meet people through video? Because I think that would be so cool. I don't know anything about online dating as far as like the details are concerned. Like is there like can you explain a little bit more about how it's formatted for people?
Yeah, so most dating sites that are out there are pretty cool. They're all on their apps, and there's lots of beautiful pictures and nice and profiles and things like that. But what we decided to bring into Love in Sync is that we do have a video option. So most people on dating websites, of course, you have to fill out a profile, say a little bit about yourself. And we also are making it a requirement for people to do a video, like a live, right? Like a Facebook Live, 2 or 3 minutes, where people just talk about themselves. And they're not going to say something like, hey, I'm Jen from the hood. I live here. I have a green thumb. What we're going to ask you, what
Love you so much.
what we're going to say is, hey, I'm Jen. And in my life so far, the time when I felt the most loved, the time in my life when I felt the most inspired, and I get the most inspired when I do this. You know what I mean? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
tapping into people's hearts. And when you tap into somebody's heart, their expression and their tonality and what they're saying tells you so much about themselves that a picture with or without a filter will not be able to tell you. Right? So the video,
Absolutely.
and we also have so we're calling that the video intro, and there's also a voice intro. So let's say you're on it and you just have a few minutes to set up your profile and you don't have the time to do the video. You can do a quick voice intro, right? Where you can just and we want everybody to say their favorite quote. My favorite quote is da 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 da, and you can hear the person's voice. That tells you so much, right? Even your favorite
I
quote.
love that so much. That's amazing.
And it's
Honestly, the voices get me, guys. The voices get me.
you're a voice person.
So, Tina, I said Gina. Tina, I just want to thank you for coming on, and we just have a few more minutes. So I know there was a question in here. Maybe we could answer quickly.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Joanna, Steve, Liba, Cindy had a question, and she stated, "What would Tina have done differently in the 7 years that you stayed?"
That's a really good question. I think I would have sought help to help give me the tools. I didn't feel like I had the tools at the time, right? Maybe I would have sought out a therapist and gotten together, at least for myself to begin with, and maybe, had my ex-husband, be involved also. But what I recognize right now is that part of that situation is that based on things that I went through in my childhood, whenever I had to stand up for myself, it was difficult, especially if I loved the people that were around, right?
I love you.
I love you too. I could not find my voice because their needs were more important than mine, because that was the way I found approval. And I was fearful of losing his approval. Right. So I could not stand up to him. It was like I was, as successful I was in other areas of my life, I could not do that. But that wasn't on him, really. I wasn't facing the issues. I would say, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I didn't put my hand up physically, but my energy, my hand was up. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I think having done therapy would have done the world of good, and I would have had more tools to be able to combat that. It doesn't mean that it would have worked, but at least I would have tried that first.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a good point, because I could relate in that sense that I have like tried therapy with my partner, and I was introduced that growing up, and I thought it was really beneficial, but for us, it was not. Like, he
Okay.
hated it.
Would have left years.
Makes me sad to think about.
Well, you put a frog and you change. So a frog gets really comfortable and it starts getting uncomfortable as the heat goes up until it's on boiling, and then you're like stuck and you think, how did I get here? How the hell did I get here? And even logically,
Mm-hmm. The link to the website, and if this is something that you're interested in, I